The vote that started war. The chamber was vast and cold. Crystal walls curved upward into darkness, lit by floating orbs that hummed softly. This was the Grand Hall of the Galactic Union, where 500 species had gathered to decide the fate of worlds. Ambassador Lyra Vaughn stood at the human delegation platform, her hands gripped tight on the railing. Around her, alien senators filled the tiers, scaled, feathered, insectoid, silicon-based. Some were beautiful. Others were nightmares made flesh. But all of them were staring at her. And none of them were friendly. The speaker, a towering being made of flowing liquid metal, raised one limb. The chamber fell silent. "We now vote on Resolution 447-C, the speaker announced, its voice echoing like a bell. The restructuring of Terran colonial oversight. Lyra's jaw clenched. Restructuring. Such a polite word for theft. Behind her, Director Chen, Earth's senior diplomat, whispered, "Stay calm. We've lobbied everyone we can." "Maybe. They've already decided," Lyra interrupted quietly. "This vote is just theater." Chen said nothing. He knew she was right. Across the chamber, Counselor Thex, a reptilian elder from the Draxian hegemony, rose from his seat. His scales glittered under the light, emerald and gold. He was ancient, older than most human civilizations. And he hated them. "The Terran species," Thex began, his voice smooth and cold, "has been part of this union for 100 cycles. In that time, they have expanded faster than any species in recorded history. They colonize worlds we consider uninhabitable. They breed in numbers that strain resources. They develop weapons at a pace we find disturbing." Murmurs rippled through the hall. Lyra felt her pulse spike. Thex continued. "They claim to value peace. Yet their soldiers train for war. They call themselves explorers. Yet they fortify every colony like a military base. And now, they sit on the edge of sectors we have maintained for millennia, watching us with hungry eyes." "That's a lie," Lyra said sharply. The speaker's limb raised again. "Ambassador Vaughn. You will have your chance to speak." Thex smiled, a thin, predatory smile. "Humanity is a Deathworlder species. Born on a violent planet. Shaped by conflict. They are unstable. Dangerous. And if we do not act now, they will destabilize the galaxy." Cheers erupted from half the chamber. Lyra's stomach turned. Another senator stood, a crystalline being from the Luminari Collective. Its voice chimed like glass. "We do not question their courage. But courage without wisdom is recklessness. Humanity is young. They need guidance. Oversight. For their sake, and ours." More applause. Lyra looked around the chamber. She saw fear in their eyes. Fear of humanity's growth. Fear of being left behind. The speaker gestured toward her. "Ambassador Vaughn. You may respond." Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her fists were shaking. "You say we're dangerous," she began. "You say we're violent. You say we need control." She paused. "But what you really mean is, you're afraid. Afraid that in another 100 years, we won't need you. Afraid that we'll outgrow you. Afraid that the species you've ruled for centuries will look to us instead." Silence. "We came to this union in good faith," Lyra continued. "We followed your laws. We traded fairly. We helped in wars that weren't ours. And now, because we've succeeded, because we've survived, you want to take it all away." Thex's eyes narrowed. "You prove my point, Ambassador. Defiance. Arrogance. This is why you cannot be trusted." Lyra's voice rose. "You call us Deathworlders like it's an insult. But every species in this hall came from a harsh world. Every one of you fought to survive. The only difference is, we're still fighting. And you've forgotten how. The chamber erupted. Some cheered. Most shouted in anger. The speaker raised both limbs. Silence. We will now vote. Lyra's heart pounded. She looked at Chen. He shook his head slowly. The vote began. One by one, the holographic tally rose on the chamber's central display. Green for humanity. Red against. Green, 14. Red, 103. Green, 29. Red, 198. Lyra watched the numbers climb. Her throat tightened. Final count, green, 64. Red, 436. The chamber filled with the sound of approval, clicks, hums, chirps, roars. The speaker's voice rang out. Resolution 447, C is approved. Terran colonies in sectors 7 through 15 will be placed under Galactic Union administration, effective immediately. Terran military forces will withdraw. Transition enforcement will begin within 10 cycles. Lyra stood frozen. Around her, alien senators celebrated. Chen touched her shoulder. We need to leave. Now. But Lyra didn't move. She stared at Thex, who was watching her with that same cold smile. They just declared war, she whispered. Lyra. They don't know it yet, she said, louder now. But they just declared war. Chen pulled her toward the exit. As they left, Lyra looked back one last time at the Grand Hall, at the 500 species who had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. Because humanity had been insulted before. Underestimated before. Threatened before. And every time, they had responded the same way. Not with words. With fire. The captain who refused. 30,000 light-years from Earth. Colony Station Halcyon, Sector 9. The alarm screamed through the corridors. Captain Elias Ward was in the command center when the first report came in. He was tall, lean, with gray streaking through his black hair. His uniform was worn at the edges. He'd been in space for 15 years, most of it on the frontier. Captain. Lieutenant Reyes shouted from the sensor station. We've got contacts. 12 ships. Draxian signatures. They're forming a blockade around the station. Elias stepped toward the viewport. Outside, against the black canvas of space, alien warships drifted into position. Sleek. Predatory. Their hulls shimmered green and gold under the distant star's light. Hail them, Elias ordered. Static crackled. Then a voice, smooth, cold, reptilian. Terran vessel TNS Resolute. This is War Master Krell of the Draxian Third Fleet. By order of the Galactic Union, you are commanded to power down your weapons and prepare for peacekeeping transition. Resistance will be met with force. Elias's jaw tightened. He glanced at Reyes. How long since the vote? 4 days, sir. 4 days. And they were already here. Elias tapped the comm. This is Captain Ward. Halcyon Station is a civilian habitat. 3,000 colonists live here, families, children, workers. You have no right to. You have 10 minutes to comply, Krell interrupted. After that, we will interpret your silence as hostility. The line went dead. Reyes turned. Captain, they're charging weapons. Elias's mind raced. The Resolute was a warship, yes, but it was one ship. The Draxians had 12. If he fought, they'd be slaughtered. But if he surrendered? He looked out at Halcyon Station. It floated in the distance, a spinning wheel of metal and glass. Lights glowed in the windows. He could see the docking bays, the greenhouses, the schools. People had built lives there. His comm buzzed. It was Director Amari, the station's administrator. Captain Ward, she said, her voice tight with fear. What do we do? Elias exhaled slowly. Lock down the station. Get everyone into the inner sectors. And stay off the comms. Are you going to fight? He didn't answer. Captain, Reyes said quietly. We just received a message. From Earth Command. Elias turned. What does it say? Reyes hesitated. Then she read it aloud. All Terran military forces in contested sectors are ordered to stand down. Do not engage Union fleets. Diplomatic negotiations are ongoing. Repeat, do not engage. Silence filled the bridge. Elias stared at the message on the screen. His hands curled into fists. Sir? Reyes asked. Elias looked at his crew. Reyes. Ensign Park at the helm. Chief Engineer Ortiz on the lower deck. Commander Hassan, his second-in-command, standing at the tactical console. They were waiting for his order. Captain, Hassan said carefully. If we don't stand down, we'll be disobeying Earth Command. I know. They'll court-martial you. I know. Hassan stepped closer. Then what are you going to do? Elias looked out at the Draxian fleet. Then at Halcyon Station. He made his choice. Reyes, he said. Bring weapons online. Full power to shields. Her eyes widened. Sir. Do it. She hesitated. Then her fingers flew across the console. Weapons online. Shields at maximum. Elias tapped the comm. This is Captain Ward to the Draxian fleet. Halcyon Station is under Terran protection. If you fire on it, we will respond. Krell's voice came back immediately. You are in violation of Galactic Union law, Captain. Stand down, or we will destroy you. Elias's voice was cold. Try. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then Krell gave the order. Fire. The first shot hit Halcyon Station. Not the Resolute. The station. A green plasma beam lanced through space and struck the outer ring. Metal exploded. Atmosphere vented into the void. Alarms screamed. Elias's blood went cold. They fired on civilians, Reyes whispered. Hassan's voice was sharp. Captain, orders. Elias didn't hesitate. All batteries. Fire. The Resolute roared to life. Railguns spat tungsten slugs at near-light speed. Missiles streaked through the black. Energy beams tore into the nearest Draxian ship. Its shields flared, then shattered. The hull buckled. The ship spun out of formation, trailing fire. Krell's voice snarled over the comm, you dare. You fired on civilians, Elias interrupted, his voice like ice. You just declared war. The Draxian fleet surged forward. And the Resolute met them head-on. The battle lasted 18 minutes. The Resolute was outnumbered. Outgunned. But Captain Ward had spent 15 years on the frontier. He knew how to fight dirty. He used the station's gravity well to slingshot around the enemy. He fired missiles into their formation, forcing them to scatter. He pushed the ship's reactor past redline, pouring every ounce of power into weapons and shields. 2 Draxian ships went down. Then a third. But the Resolute was bleeding. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Shields failing. Fires in engineering. Captain. Ortiz shouted over the comm, reactors at 140%. We can't hold this. Just a little longer. Elias shouted back. Another Draxian ship exploded. But then Krell's flagship fired. A massive plasma lance struck the Resolute dead center. The ship shuddered. Sparks exploded across the bridge. Reyes was thrown from her seat. Elias grabbed the console to stay upright. Damage report. Shields down. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. We're venting atmosphere. Elias looked at the viewport. The Draxian fleet was closing in. They were going to die. But then. Captain. Park shouted. New contacts. Human signatures. Elias's head snapped up. What? On the sensor display, 6 new ships dropped out of FTL. They weren't military. They were cargo haulers. Mining rigs. Colony transports. But they were armed. And they were angry. A voice crackled over the open channel. Rough. Familiar. This is Captain Jonas Drift of the freighter Iron Liberty. We got your distress call, Ward. And we're not leaving. Elias's chest tightened. He knew Drift. A smuggler. A rogue. A man Earth Command had tried to arrest a dozen times. But right now, he was an ally. Drift, Elias said. You don't have to do this. Drift laughed, a hard, bitter sound. Yeah, we do. Because if they can shoot at Halcyon, they can shoot at any of us. The 6 ships opened fire. The Draxians hadn't expected resistance from civilians. They scattered. One ship tried to retreat, Drift's Iron Liberty rammed it at full speed, tearing it in half. Krell's voice screamed over the comm, retreat. All ships, retreat. The Draxian fleet broke. They jumped to FTL, one by one, until the space around Halcyon Station was empty. Silence. The message that spread like fire. 48 hours after the Battle of Halcyon. Somewhere in the Outer Rim, freighter Dust Runner. The crew gathered around the holographic display in the cargo bay. 15 people. Miners, haulers, drifters. Men and women who'd spent their lives on the edge of human space, forgotten by Earth, ignored by the Union. The holo flickered. Then a face appeared. Captain Elias Ward. He looked exhausted. His uniform was scorched. Blood stained his collar. Behind him, the bridge of the Resolute was dark, lit only by emergency lights. But his eyes were clear. And his voice was steady. My name is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Navy ship Resolute, he began. 4 days ago, the Galactic Union voted to strip humanity of our colonies. 2 days ago, they sent a fleet to Halcyon Station to enforce that vote. When we refused to surrender, they opened fire. Not on my ship. On the station. On 3,000 civilians. The crew of the Dust Runner didn't move. They barely breathed. Ward continued. They killed 47 people in that first strike. Families. Workers. Children. Then they demanded we stand down and let them take what was ours. He paused. His jaw tightened. We refused. And we fought back. 6 civilian ships, cargo haulers, mining rigs, colonists, joined us. Together, we drove them off. We won. But Earth Command has ordered us to surrender. They say we violated Union law. They say we started a war. Ward leaned closer to the camera. I'm here to tell you the truth. They started this war. They fired first. They killed our people. And now they expect us to bow down and accept it. His voice grew colder. I will not. The crew of the Resolute will not. And I'm asking you, every human in this galaxy, do not let them take what is ours. Do not let them call us violent and then pretend they are the victims. Do not let them strip us of our freedom because they are afraid of what we've become. He straightened. Halcyon Station is still standing. The Resolute is still flying. And as long as we draw breath, we will fight. Not because we want war. But because they have given us no choice. The message ended. Silence. Then the captain of the Dust Runner, a scarred woman named Cara Solis, shut off the holo and looked at her crew. "So," she said. "What do we do?" Her engineer, a wiry man named Chen, spoke first. "Earth Command says stand down. If we get involved, we're outlaws." "We're already outlaws," someone muttered. Kara smiled grimly. "True." Her pilot, Rami, crossed his arms. "The Union has 1,000 ships. We have, what? A cargo hauler with 2 railguns bolted to the hull?" "3 railguns," Chen corrected. "I added one last month." Rami rolled his eyes. "Oh, well, that changes everything." Kara stepped forward. "Listen. I've hauled cargo across this sector for 12 years. I've paid Union tariffs. Followed Union laws. And you know what they've given us? Nothing. No protection. No respect. They call us Deathworlders like we're animals. And now they want to take our colonies because we're too good at surviving." She looked around the bay. At the tired, weathered faces of her crew. "Ward's right," she said. "They started this. And if we don't stand up now, we'll spend the rest of our lives on our knees." Rami sighed. "So what's the plan?" Kara grinned. "We spread the message. Then we find others like us. Then we make the Union regret ever underestimating humanity." The message spread. It moved through encrypted channels. Pirate networks. Colony comm relays. Smuggler hideouts. In 72 hours, it reached every human settlement in the Outer Rim. And everywhere it went, people responded. On New Terra, a mining colony in Sector 11, 300 workers walked off the job. They refused to hand over their equipment to Union overseers. When Draxian enforcers arrived, the miners barricaded the refinery and armed themselves with plasma cutters and drilling charges. The Draxians retreated. On Jericho Station, a trade hub near the frontier, the dockmaster, a grizzled veteran named Marcus Holt, locked down the docking bays. He sent a message to the Union fleet waiting outside: "You want this station? Come take it." They didn't. On Outpost 17, a research facility on a frozen moon, scientists sabotaged their own data cores rather than let Union forces seize their work. One researcher, Dr. Amina Osei, transmitted the data to a hidden server and then broadcast a message across the sector: "Knowledge is not a weapon. But if you try to steal it, we will make it one." And on Titan's Reach, a colony so far from Earth that most people had forgotten it existed, a young woman named Sable Quinn stood in the town square and read Ward's message aloud to 200 colonists. When she finished, the governor, a retired Marine, asked one question. "Who's with me?" Every hand went up. Back on Earth, United Terran Command. Admiral Catherine Monroe sat in her office, staring at the reports flooding in from across human space. Rebellion. Defiance. Resistance. Every colony in the contested sectors had refused Union control. Some had armed themselves. Others had fortified their positions. A few had already fought off Union patrols. And at the center of it all was one name. Elias Ward. Monroe's aide, Commander Lee, stood at attention. "Admiral, Earth Command wants a response. The Union is demanding we arrest Ward and court-martial him for treason." Monroe didn't look up. "And if we refuse?" "The Union has threatened sanctions. Trade embargoes. Possibly military action." Monroe finally met his eyes. "They're already taking military action, Commander. They fired on civilians." Lee hesitated. "What do we do?" Monroe leaned back in her chair. She was 63. She'd fought in 3 wars. She'd lost friends. Buried soldiers. And she'd spent the last decade watching politicians negotiate away everything those soldiers had died for. She was tired of it. "Send a message to Captain Ward," she said. Lee blinked. "What should it say?" Monroe smiled, a cold, dangerous smile. Tell him. Earth Command is not authorized to support his actions. Officially, he's a rogue officer acting without orders. Lee frowned. Admiral. But, Monroe continued, also tell him that a convoy of supply ships is currently en route to Sector 9. Medical supplies, ammunition, reactor cores. Due to a clerical error, the convoy's destination was never filed. So if someone were to intercept it, well, we'd have no way of knowing where it went. Lee stared at her. Then he smiled. Understood, Admiral. Monroe turned back to her reports. And Commander? Yes, ma'am. Start compiling a list of every officer, every ship, and every colony that refuses to surrender. I want to know who's still fighting. Why? Monroe's eyes glinted. Because when this war is over, I want to know who stood up. And who gave in. 1 week after the Battle of Halcyon. Captain Ward stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching the sensor display. 63 ships. They'd come from across the outer rim. Freighters. Colony transports. Patrol boats. Even a few pirate vessels. None of them were military. Most were held together with duct tape and prayers. But they were here. Reyes looked at him. Captain, what do we call this? Ward thought for a moment. Then he smiled. The Terran Vanguard. Reyes nodded slowly. I like it. Ward opened a channel to the fleet. His voice echoed across every ship. To everyone listening, the Union thinks we're weak. They think we'll surrender. They think they can insult us, attack us, and take what's ours because we're too small to matter. He paused. They're wrong. We are the people they underestimated. The colonists they ignored. The soldiers they dismissed. And we are going to show them what humanity is made of. He looked out at the stars. This is not a rebellion. This is a reckoning.